Hello and welcome back to Football Kentron, the only English language podcast dedicated to Armenian football. I am your host, Adam, and I am joined here by Chadens and Ottoman today. Tito will not be joining us, unfortunately, but we will hope to have him back soon. Now, we have a lot to discuss today. Our main topic of the day is going to be Armenia's World Cup qualifiers. We will be previewing the match against Macedonia that will be taking place this Thursday, or as you're listening to this tomorrow, away to Macedonia and Skopje. But first, let us discuss European club competitions. Alashkert played Rangers of Scotland in the second leg of the UEFA Europa League playoffs. And they came away with a 0-0 draw in Yerevan, something that no Rangers fan could have ever predicted. But unfortunately, the one goal that Rangers had scored in Scotland at the Ibrox was enough to take them through, and Alashkert are now in the UEFA Conference League group stage, being the first Armenian officially to make it to a European competition. Boys, what are some of the key takeaways that you had from this match? Let's start with you, Ottoman.
I'm surprised. I mean, you said no Scottish fan, no Rangers fan expected this very, very close result. And I would say that few of us Armenian football fans did too, you know. Honestly, I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised. It was a masterclass by Coach Grigorian. We're gonna break it down a little bit, bit by bit, but overall, I'm very, very happy and excited for what's to come in the group stages.
And Chadens, what about you? What's a key takeaway that you got from this match?
Surprising stuff. There was a chance that we could have actually won the game, maybe, but my predictions were completely different. So it was completely different game. Yeah. So it was nice. It was a nice run. Now we're happy that they're in the Conference League.
Yeah, of course. So we can get into the game just a little bit, but of course, being a 0-0 draw, there wasn't really much to look into. But so Rangers were kind of decimated by COVID, including the manager Stevie G and several starting players did not travel to Yerevan, but they still put out a lineup that was, I believe, something along the lines of like their transfer values are around 60 million versus Alashkert, which was about 2.5 million.
Wow.
So there's a huge gulf in finances on the pitch there. But Alashkert played much better than they did in the first leg. They controlled possession. The possession was almost even in the second leg. They created several chances, and and funnily enough, they got Rangers to start time wasting in the last 10 minutes and taking the ball to the corner.
Yeah, that was insane. That was unforgettable.
Yeah, they clearly instilled a lot of fear because there were several occasions that the striker for Alashkert and Mbalo was called offsides. A couple of those times were extremely questionable. He would have been in on goal and very likely scored because he's a pretty clinical finisher. But Alashkert had plenty of chances, but again, kind of like that first leg, that final ball just wasn't there. And there was a lot of fatigue, clearly. Artak Grigorian got subbed off in the 70th minute or so because he was exhausted. But he is currently now recovering with the national team, so everything should be fine there. And even more questionable was that red card that we saw in the first half, where I believe it was Santos. Sorry, the name is escaping me of the player. Yeah, James was rushing to try to get in on goal, and the goalkeeper ended up going out to collect the ball, and he like jumped over the keeper, and the keeper kind of pretended that James's trailing leg hit him in the face, and he got sent off immediately. And Alashkert played about 60 minutes of this match, a man down. So if you put all those circumstances together, the transfer values, the prestige, the playing with a man down, I mean, Alashkert, you could say, were the better side considering the circumstances. Unfortunately, the results didn't go that way.
If we talk about absences, yeah, they may have had COVID come across their way and lost 6 starters, but of those 6 starters, only three, I would say, only three were like very, very important in their lineup. Their captain, Tavernier, I think he's a right back, fullback, and he was insane in the first game. He was one of the difference makers. So yeah, I reckon that was a big, big problem for them. Second key absence was their goalie, and third, their starting goalkeeper. And third key absentee, I would say it was I don't remember the name, but it was a Bassi, I believe, a key like attacking man. So out of the six, only three were like quote unquote irreplaceable. But on the other hand, Alashkert did lose two very, very important wingers. Artak Babiyan, Arvan Babiyan and Artak Yedikaryan, both of them, and basically play the same role in the team. And that forced Coach Grigorian to improvise, and he did so marvelously.
Yeah. I think his tactical approach to the game was very, very solid. I don't think anyone can complain. Of course, the lack of offensive product is frustrating at times, but realistically speaking, I mean, in 180 minutes, a side that is supposed to be incredibly superior to an Armenian side was only able to score one goal, and that goal was offsides. So it's it's a little bit crazy to think, and I think partially on our end as Football Kentron, as this Armenian media, I think we feared Rangers a lot more than we probably should have, looking back at it in retrospect, because this Ranger side was I would say below average.
Yeah,
I was not expecting that. Yeah, I was not expecting them to be like that. Travinier, I fear him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is a job well done by coach. I mean, we knew he had a plan for Gerard's team, and boy, what a plan it was. I mean, he completely he completely shut down the Rangers' whole game.
Yeah, and realistically, for 180 minutes, it kept them at bay, because that one goal that they scored was very much offside. So in my head,
and by the end of the game, the game, they had to freeze the ball. They literally had to, like, as you said,
they were running it to the corner flag. Like, Garza We're not like Barcelona or something. Like
that was an unforgettable sight, really.
Yeah, and they got a lot
of do that.
They got a lot of shit for that on social media from other Scottish fans. A lot of shit.
They were very pissed off
another
the whole thing.
Scottish Premier League club tweeted at them. I saw this. Responded to one of their tweets saying, "Hurry, run it into the corner."
Oh my god!
Yeah, bro, it was humiliating for them.
Yeah, I mean, think about the magnitude of this. An Armenian, not even the best Armenian club at the moment.
They're very mediocre right now.
Yeah,
for sure.
Maybe slightly above mediocre, but not that much more. They managed to humiliate, like they literally ruined a continental traditional pedigree powerhouse, one of the oldest and most like traditional clubs in the world. What the heck? That's incredible.
To the point that the media just picked up and immediately moved forward from this result. They didn't try to analyze it. They didn't talk about it. They avoided all subject matter related to this game, because they knew in reality that they had gotten away with a big one. A big one. They really, really got away with it. And they knew they were fortunate. But
yeah, unfairly it's fine. So too.
Looking forward, Alashkert will be participating in the UEFA Europa Conference League group stage. They have been drawn in a group with Lask Linz, Maccabi Tel Aviv, and HJK Helsinki. We will discuss the group stage draws and Alashkert's chances of progression, or how we feel they will perform, and in a future date. We will also be providing in-depth previews for all of their European matches. And hopefully they can get a few results. Elsewhere in Europe, though, we had some yays and boos. Chotins, why don't you walk us through what were the big yays that we had in Europe?
3 teams. Well, 3 players from 3 teams: Anorthosi, Kairat, and Roma. We had Hovo doing assisting in the game with Anorthosi. We had Camo, who progressed to Conference League, and Henrikh Mkhitaryan for Roma with so apologies for his team for the Conference League.
Yeah, and he provided a very, very tidy assist in that first game in Istanbul, which was nice to see. And Kairat, I think back to their old ways, ended up winning something like 8-1 on aggregate or some crazy scoreline like that, 8-1, 7-2, something like that. So
basically.
Yeah, they're scorers, and I think
7-2.
That's another testament to how good
7-2, and they didn't even break a sweat.
Yeah, and that's a testament to how good of a manager Alexander Grigoryan is, and
exactly
that he was able to get past that Kairat side. And not only that, I think we all share this opinion with some reinforcements coming into this squad before the group stage and being able to actually register like 10 more players. I think Alashkert have a decent chance.
We will get into that after national team camp. Don't get excited. Don't get too excited, Adam.
All right, and I know this is your favorite ones to go over. Armin, what are our boos from European?
Wow, that's a cheap shot. I have to deliver the bad news. Okay, maybe it's because I am more fun and people like hearing the bad news.
Because you absolutely love the first player that you're gonna have to discuss right now.
You're gonna have to make me go through that, aren't you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, yeah. FC Riga from Latvia, and if you follow Football Kentron, you know how much we try to avoid this. So I'm gonna do it quick. They lost against Lincoln Red Imps from Gibraltar, and take a second to digest this. Okay, done. Edgar Babayan didn't even play or played a little bit. Honestly, that's humiliating. We were talking about Rangers. No, this is humiliating. Edgar Babayan, who could have been playing in Cyprus, who could have been even earlier than his last transfer, could have been playing Bundesliga or Serie A in Italy. He ends up being benched by a Latvian team that gets knocked off Europe by a Gibraltarian team. Edgar, get out of there. Please go to Cyprus. You're scheduled to go to Cyprus. Listen to Football Kentron and go there. Honestly, I don't understand why more Armenians don't play in Cyprus, but hopefully in time. Second result, second boo. Shakhtar Karaganda from Kazakhstan lost against, I think it was Maccabi Tel Aviv or something like that. Yeah, Maccabi Tel Aviv, who will be playing Alashkert in group stages. Honestly, it was predictable because although Shakhtar is a big team from Kazakhstan, they have been getting some bad results, and Gevorg Najarian sadly isn't playing all that much. He is mostly playing Kazakhstani, like the domestic league. So in Europe, he was benched and played off the bench like 10-15 minutes every game. And they did face a very strong Maccabi Tel Aviv, the strongest team in Israel. We know them pretty well from the time they played Punic. They lost both games, fair and square, and on to face Alashkert for the Israelis. And last but not least, this was another humiliating defeat.
This was the most surprising one, I think, because we thought they were going to go far.
Yeah, and especially not just that, but especially the aggregate result. 8-1, Jelena 8-1 down against Czech Republic's Jablonec. That's weird.
I think Jablonec is actually in a bit of a resurgence right now. They were a lot bigger in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. They were a decent side, and it seems like they're is a like resurgence in Czech football, and they were really, really, really good.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
I watched the first
Czech
leg,
league
and
is
they
improving a lot.
yeah, for sure.
And
Well,
honestly, let's talk about 1 second about Vahan and what we talked about earlier. You say
Ogden seems to think that Vahan had virtually said his goodbyes to Žilina
come on, let's
via an
dip it.
Instagram post. I think
How? I missed that chat.
I didn't construe it to be that. I think it's more of a sorry to the fans that they were unable to make it to European competition. But you know what? At the end of the day, we know what Vahan is capable of, and we're kind of hoping that he can have a good enough showing in these national team matches that he will be maybe earning a move elsewhere in the short.
His contract is expiring in the next transfer window.
Oh boy.
It looked and the post Vahan made looked a bit like a farewell. Maybe not expressly so, maybe not explicitly so, but a little bit.
But because if you look at it from the perspective of a contract running out, Žilina would be wiser to sell him and make money rather than let him go on a free. You know, considering they can easily make money on him, he's easily
Definitely.
worth 5 million
they make
euros.
the most money now. They make the most
Exactly.
money now, but it's too difficult to be 5 million.
Yeah, well, considering there's about less than a year left on his contract now, I think they can let him go for a couple million, and it's better than letting him go on a free. And we would see him hopefully in a better league sooner.
Yeah, but if his value was like 5 million, like but his contract is expiring, so it would be it's not. So
it's going to be a fraction,
It's not going to be it's not going to be a lot. But the thing is,
it's better than going on a free, right? If you're looking at it from the perspective of Žilina, it's better that you sell him now rather than wait for his contract to expire and then you get nothing for him.
Or in our perspective, he stays. Like he stays and wins the league, and then moves.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, there's his contract will expire by the time he wins the league.
Yeah, okay, but a move is still happening. But
does it expire in January or does it expire in
it's
July?
Usually June. I don't think there's ever like end of June, like so July basically. I think it's usually that's what happens.
Some players have his June 30th is when his contract expires. So still has time. Anyway, moving forward to some news. Armen, women's futsal and women's football in general has been having a great rise in Armenia. Walk us through a little bit of what's been going on.
Yes, I'm mostly excited about FC Hayasa, who is the football, like 11 football team that had their first participation in, if I'm not mistaken, in UEFA Champions League, and played a great role, a great qualifying campaign. They got knocked out, sadly, after having lost against Anderlecht. And after that, a very, very close game against Montenegrin side Breznica. But honestly, neither result was huge. Like, they were in game during both draws. They put wonderful performances. They made us really proud. And considering FC Hayasa, FC Alashkert has been playing well last season. Sadly, they had a few transfers out of the squad. Some of them actually going to FC Punic, about who we talked on our social media platform. There you have 3 teams that will be fighting, and the APL is or the women's version of the APL is picking up the level big time.
And that has to do with what in our interview with Anna Tadevosyan from the Football Federation, what she said is that in order for these teams to be registered to play in the Armenian Premier League, they were now required to have a women's team. So there are suddenly a lot more women's teams. There's a lot more demand for women's football players in Armenia. And so we're going to see a great improvement in the competition in general.
Yeah, and I hope Urartu FC Urartu does the same thing with women's football that they do with men's football, because FC Urartu is a very exciting institution for Armenian football as a whole, and that's the future. I believe FC Urartu would be the future for Armenian women's football.
Well, speaking of the future, someone who we were looking forward to playing for Armenia in the near future is unable to make the national team. I'm, of course, talking about Norberto Briasco Balakian, our Argentine-born Armenian striker who plays for Boca Juniors. How is he getting along in Argentina, Charens?
He scored his first goal for Boca, and it's his second game under his new manager, and second game at his preferred position, which is off the wings. So, like you said, he wasn't featured in the final national team squad list. It's kind of disappointing on my end. I wanted to see him join, of course, especially.
And actually, the federation posted about it, like a little sore, a little bothered, because the FFA posted something like, "Ooh, Balakian missed the call, like because of restrictions in Argentina," like with a couple emojis. It was a kind of a they were bothered by it.
I think it was more to cover their bases because they didn't want a spread of misinformation around. That's what I think it was. Because, the questions had to be directly answered. These types of questions should be addressed directly by the Football Federation, who are the ones that have the information, rather than someone spreading information like, oh, Boca didn't let him leave or whatever, something like that. Like they just said, no, there's quarantine rules. It didn't make sense for him club-wise.
Or even social media. Yeah.
And yeah, so it was that's what it was.
Yeah, or even social media, just not share it.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to our main topic of this episode, we are going to be talking about the Armenian National Team camp in World Cup qualifiers.
Oh boy, since March. I mean, we had the friendlies, but...
It's been a long time, but also simultaneously it went by very quickly. But for our listeners who are maybe a little rusty on the topic, let's give them a little bit of a recap of what has happened so far. The Armenian National Team opened their World Cup qualifying campaign for the Qatar 2022 FIFA World Cup away to Liechtenstein. That was a very dominant performance from the Armenian National Team, which resulted in a 1-0 win from an own goal. Very ironic, but it was an interesting game, and Armenia clearly showed dominance, but the ever frustrating Liechtenstein team stood their ground up until they were just unable to and cracked under pressure. Armenia then had a pair of home matches, starting first against Iceland. This Icelandic team, who was hailed at one point of being a revolution in football, traveled to Yerevan in order to face the Armenian national team. They were dispatched 2-0 with goals from Tigran Barsegyan and Khoren Bayramian in a fantastic performance from the Armenian national team, which saw the Icelandic side get extremely frustrated and were unable to break down the Armenian defense.
It was also a dominant performance. It was,
yes. They definitely kept Iceland at bay, and you limited their chances. So at this point, Armenia had scored 3 goals and have not conceded a single goal. And next, they would host Romania in Yerevan. And this Romanian side was a difficult one. Armenia had a strong start to the match, followed by Romanian dominance, followed by a red card, followed by an insane goal fest. Eduard Spertian, who had made his debut for the Armenian national team in this match, scored a goal that took a wicked deflection actually off a couple of defenders. Then goals from, I believe, Varazdat Haroyan with the captain's armband, a crazy lunging strike off a cross, and a last-minute penalty by Tigran Barseghian, which was won by Edward Spertian. Very, very smartly done there by Edward. Put Armenia ahead 3-2 after the Romanians had mounted a comeback. Armenia are sitting at the top of Group J currently with 9 points out of 9, with a +4 goal differential, scoring 6 and conceding 2. And second place, surprisingly, is Macedonia, who had a shock 2-1 win over Germany in their final group game, which saw them overtake Germany because of a head-to-head record and are right below Armenia by 3 points. So the table as it stands has Armenia at 9 points, Macedonia at 6 points in second place, Germany with 6 points in third place, Romania with 3 points in fourth place, Iceland with 3 points in fifth place, and Liechtenstein in last place with 0 points. Whew. That was some recap, huh? Well, that was only the beginning, because now we have 3 more matches in a span of a week, and we have a lot to discuss. Let's start with you, Chanens. Tell us a little bit about Macedonia's management. There's been a little bit of a change, right?
Yep, updates. Okay, this is going to be difficult with the pronunciations of the names, so apologies for that. Blagoja Milevski is going to be the first manager, his first time as a manager for this Macedonian team. So we're going to be. It's kind of like what you guys said in our chat. Like it's like a rotation kind of game. When we played our first game, when we played the first game against them, we had a new manager in Joaquin Caparros. Now they have. He was former at Vartar and Macedonia U21. His record is 8 wins, 5 draws, 6 losses. It's kind of a balanced one. He left after he left Vartar. Miranyan, Dashian, and Hamparsyumyan joined. So his preferred formation is 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, completely different style than us, but they're going
most
to be.
Of his career, most of his career was in Macedonia under 21, and we're gonna be discussing a little bit on that because he knows a lot of players very well, over 6 years coaching them.
Yeah, so he has a very good in-depth knowledge, of course, of Macedonian youth, and we expect that to be probably the biggest change in Macedonia right now, as they have some notable retirees, including their all-time leading goal scorer Goran Pandev, who has retired from the national team, and AEK Larnaca striker Ivan Trikovsky, who has always given us hell, has also retired from the national team. But Armen, Macedonia made it to the Euros as a result of their Nations League playoffs win. How did they perform in the Euros?
Not good. I mean, it was predictable too, because maybe it would be more important to address the way they beat Georgia, and that game was awful too. They didn't deserve to beat Georgia, and we know both of those teams very well. And then in the Euros, it was a 1-3 defeat against Austria, where they were really they weren't awful on that game, but they were dominated. They weren't in the game all that much. They went all in against Ukraine, but still lost 1-2. And by the third game, they had to face the Netherlands, and they were already knocked out of the tournament. It was a big defeat, not humiliating either, but big nonetheless. 3-0. I'm optimistic. Of course, Macedonia. They're still a tough team, but we can take them.
Yes, and if we look at their qualifier so far, this would be pre-Euro results. They had
this was a shocker.
Narrow 2-3 loss to Romania, with I believe it was like a last-minute goal on the Romanian end, that sealed the points for Romania. Then they went to Liechtenstein, or Liechtenstein went to them, and they absolutely obliterated Liechtenstein 5-0. And then traveled away to Germany, where they had that 2-1 shock victory. They are currently second place, as I had stated, with 6 points. They have 9 goals scored, and they have conceded 4, so they have a +5 goal difference. But they, as we had previously said, they had some notable retirees, but they also have some notable injuries. Oddman, who are some of the injured players that are going to be out for the match against Armenia?
Yeah, one of their best attacking players, Udinese striker Ilya Nestorovsky, and also equally important, there's their defensive midfield duo. And mind this is gonna be very important because we're talking about Aryan Ademi, who's a captain in Dinamo Zagreb. They're kind of like their version of Artak Grigoryan, if you will. And then there's Boban Nikolov from FC Sheriff, who got COVID, and we know Sheriff and Nikolov very well because they faced Alashkert. Ademi and Nikolov are their starting defensive midfield duo for years now. And that, honestly, for me, that is going to be very hard for them to replace.
Yes, and for those people who are trying to like gauge how good a player like Ademi and Nikolov are, Nikolov was very integral in Sheriff's achievement in qualifying for the UEFA Champions League. So that's a very, very good player. They're very tough guys. Charents, like as you had previously said, there's a new manager in Blojaga Milievski, and he will be bringing some different approaches to the match. What is it going to look like tactically from Macedonia?
What I mentioned before is the formation. So he prefers a 3-5-2. He will be focusing on young players, which is not too much of a surprise with his experience with the U21s. U21 players, some of them actually got called up as well, and they're very, very dangerous attacking players, especially Schalke winger Darko Churnilov. Schalke is not in the Bundesliga this season, but they're still a very challenging team. The defensive personnel, their attack is insane. Therefore, we're going to be facing some tough situations. Their defensive personnel is the same as last year. Plus, there's a decrease in Alioski's form after his depart from Leicester to, weirdly, Saudi Arabia. Bardi and Elmas are clear threats. I believe Elmas was the one who scored against Germany, or he assisted,
was the MVP. Elmas is their MVP. Elmas is the guy that basically did everything for them in the last year when they beat us 2-1, undeservedly, but still they beat us because of Elmas. Had Elmas not been there, we would have beat them 2-0 easy.
Yeah, and Bardi and Elmas, of course, are going to be very threatening from the midfield, but the big question kind of remains in Macedonia, because they are going to be moving forward from such an iconic player in their squad in Goran Pandev. Who is going to replace Pandev up top, and who can match the type of output that he was putting up?
I don't think one player will. I don't think if there's one player who will kind of like fill Pandev's shoes, huge and an impossible task, but still the second in command would have been Alexander Trajkovski, the 28-year-old Mallorca striker. Trajkovski is basically their version of Georg Kazaryan, because it is their second top goal scorer in the whole Macedonia national team history, precisely after Pandev. And mind you, guys, he's 28 years old, already their second top goal scorer, and already at 28 years old, as I said, sixth most capped player. And like by the end of this year, he should be like fourth most capped. He's very experienced and still has a long way to go. He is class, but still, I don't think it's only Tchaikovsky that will take over. But as we have been discussing, they are transitioning into a new system, into a new coach. We have to make the most of it now that it will be their first game. They're not used to the new system. Make the most of it. Like, go all in.
Yes. And our most recent results against Macedonia were in the UEFA Nations League, where in Joaquin Caparros' debut as Armenia National Team manager, we lost 2-1, as Armin said, very undeservingly. 3 penalties in that game, crazy. And then the 1-0 win that secured a Nations League promotion for Armenia. So looking forward into a possible starting 11 for Macedonia, we have the Vallecano goalkeeper Dimitrievski, who will likely start in goal, with Ristovski, Velkovsky, Musilu, and Alioski making up the defensive line. Spirovsky, Bardi, Elmas, and Chertlinov making up a very, very good midfield, rounded off by Yahovic of Gostep and Tchaikovsky of Mallorca. Looking at their side overall, they are very dangerous in attack, but they are also very vulnerable in defense. They have 2 key defensive midfielders that are missing, and they are looking to replace a Goran Pandev-sized hole. Whether or not the manager will be able to pull all of this off, given the circumstances, will, of course, is yet to be seen. But, of course, if you are Armenian, you are hoping the answer is absolutely not. Moving forward to our own squad, Armenia squad, Joaquin Caparros announced the 20 and ended up being 27-man squad now. I don't know, give or take a few people. List, yeah, 27 now because of an addition that we will be talking about.
Oh my God.
And you know what? We weren't far off from our predictions, but there was some stuff that we were really off on. Starting with the goalkeepers, Yurchenko, Beglarian, Ivazov were called up initially, and then we had a surprising announcement of Punic goalkeeper Bushnev, who is like an 8th Armenian, was also called up.
An 8th.
Yeah, one of his grandparents is half Armenian, so I think that makes him an 8th. And in our defense, we have Varzat Haroyan, Andrei Kalasier, Donald Voskanyan, Henrikh Mkhitaryan. He's like 34 now. I don't know why he got called up. He hasn't been called up to the national team for years. Hovannes Hambartumian, Arman Hovanesyan, David Terterian of Ararat Armenia, and Kamal Hovanesyan of Kairat Almaty to round out the defense. In midfield, we had Artak Grigoryan, Webeimar Angulo, Solomon Udo, Edward Spertian, Khorem Bayramian, Jirar Shagoyan, Artem Avanesyan, David Davidyan, and Tigran Barsegyan. And in attack, we have Eric Vardanyan, Vahan Bichakchan, Henrikh Mkhitaryan, Arshak Koryan, Sargis Adamyan, Alexander Karapetyan, and the newest addition, Ishkhan Geloyan. So we have a couple of names here that maybe we would want to discuss just for a brief period of time before we get into Joaquin Caparros' approach to Macedonia. We have the surprise inclusions of Henrikh Mkhitaryan, and I would say equally as surprising, Ishkhan Geloyan. I'm going to open the floor to anyone who wants to respond to this, but let's start first with Mkhitaryan. Why was this guy called up?
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
It's a little bit of a mystery. He of course had his time with the national team, right? He has in his double digits in caps. He's played a lot of games. There's no doubt he's an experienced central defender who's currently playing for Ararat Yerevan, who are having a good season so far. But Caparros cited experience, but we also already have a lot of experienced central defenders. Isn't there someone else that could have been called up instead?
Yeah,
Kardashian, duh.
Yeah, I mean, um, the only explanation is, as you said, Adam, experience. And if it was down to experience, as we are now suspecting, considering especially, as you said, Caparros's press conference, uh, then it would be down to either him, Henrikh Mkhitaryan, or Haikishanian, who is a little better than Mkhitaryan in my opinion, and a little younger too, but still over 30. But yeah, for us, the obvious choice would have been Kardashian, but because he's awesome, he's in form, he's young, he's got potential. But then again, he doesn't have as much experience as Caparros seems to be thinking we need right now. That's the only explanation I can find right now.
Yes, yes. And kicking it over to you, Chadens, Ishkan Geloyan, a bit of a mystery man here. What makes you think he was called up instead of the plethora of attacking talent that we seem to have?
Firstly, it surprises me how many attackers we have rather than how many midfielders we have and then how many defenders we have. It's a lot of midfielders, a lot of attackers. Like his presence, I personally don't see any reason. I would rather have another fullback at least, because it's going to be one of those games. I don't see an attacker providing anything, especially someone who we were not expecting to find.
Yeah, and I took the liberty of looking into his statistics, because obviously as an attacking player, it's a lot easier to gauge someone you haven't seen by looking at their stats. And he has only played about 90 or so. He's played about 90 or so minutes so far this season. All 4 appearances were off the bench, and he has yet to score or assist. So I am kind of scratching my head and wondering why this guy's here. But as we had previously mentioned, we do have a lot of depth, thankfully. And I'm not sure if we are even going to see him on the bench, even, honestly.
Yeah, but fair. The reason why he doesn't play much is because he's very, very, very injury prone. If you notice, you're gonna see he actually played for Tambov, or featured and as squad member in Tambov for 2 years, and he had 0 minutes. Well, that's because he spent those 2 years injured, basically. And actually, he was supposed to feature in Russian Premier League too a couple years ago, I think, with Tambov too, but got injured then as well, and basically sent to a Russian second-tier team after his injury. He's not bad, honestly. I don't think he's bad. He reminds me a little bit of Tico, because he's kind of bullish, bold, strong, confident, likes to shoot, has a pretty diverse skill set, but he's like a second-hand Tico. He's not elite, I like him. I think he has experience, and he has somewhat of added value to Caparros. But I don't think he's gonna play, but I have to agree with Charens. I mean, we could have used that spot, that national team spot, and call, for instance, Karen Muradian. And now I'm gonna use this as a cue to ask you guys, not just why not Karen Muradian? Why do we have a concerningly only 2 very, very defensive type of defensive midfielders in Arta Grigorian and Weimar Angulo, I mean?
Looking at the squad list, honestly, I'm thinking we have, in defensively speaking, Weimar Angulo and Arta Grigorian are the only ones there, and I think it's really going to depend on whether or not Caparros is going to want to play with a single pivot defensive midfielder or a double pivot. And the reason why I say that is because looking at the opposition we're going to be playing against Macedonia, he's going to want to play quick and attacking. And I think playing a central midfielder like Eduard Spertian alongside Grigorian would probably be a lot more beneficial to get to that, end. Against Germany, I think he would maybe look to play a double pivoted defensive midfield duo, and that way we could maybe see Grigorian and Wobemar playing together, or Grigorian and Udo. But then again, against Liechtenstein, I think there's less of a need of having two defensive midfielders. So I think in his mind, two defensive midfielders stretched along 3 games may be good enough. But like we said, the possibility of additions to the national team roster is not unheard of. Players can get called up later on. It's totally fine as long as they're registered for the match specifically. So Karim Muradian is of course not called up, but it's not completely out of the question that he may join if Caparros sees maybe Grigorian's fitness isn't good, or God forbid someone gets injured. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities though.
Could be. And there's other absences we're going to be addressing, though.
So just to maybe sum it up a little bit quicker, there are going to be some very specific absences in this match due to suspension. Varazat Haroyan, Khorem Baraman, and Tigran Barseghian are all suspended for this match because of yellow card accumulations. So unfortunately, 3 of our most key members will be suspended for this very, very important match. So it's not like Macedonia is not the only one that's going to be dealing with absences. But the question kind of becomes of who replaces them. And we will get into that shortly. But I want to pose a question to you guys. Let's start with you, Chadens. Who is going to be Armenia's key player that has to have a good performance in order to get a result in this match? And by a result, I mean a win. Who's that one player that has to have a good performance to guarantee that we get all 3 points?
So for this specific game, tough. Vahan or Sako, actually.
Okay.
And why? I would push more for Sako because most of us, we wanted him to really, really score in the previous games. This one is his biggest opportunity. But Vahan is also the one who's performing and who's doing as best he can with his club performances.
Okay.
Therefore, it's easier expected from him rather than Sako.
Well, if you're looking at our goal scoring output, Tigran Barseghian is by far the most effective player that we have had in not only the Nations League, but in World Cup qualifying so far. So he's going to be the biggest gap that has to be filled. And you're correct in saying that Bichakjian is coming in at probably the best form of his career so far, his very young career still, with MSK Žilina. He's already scored several goals this season and assisted several goals. So I would say that, if he was to start, which I really hope he does, I don't see a reason why he should not be, considering his form. I would say that's a very good selection. How about you, Armen? Who's the one player that has to have a good performance in order to get a result?
I'm like Coach Alexander Kikorian. I like to shake things up a bit. I'm not going to give you just one, but 2 answers. I legit think our fullbacks are going to have to be spot on to beat Macedonia. And there's a list of reasons. As usual, I like this. 1, experience in previous games. We know very, very well how influential and how decisive fullbacks for Armenia are when facing Macedonia. Considering, for instance, the last year's Nations League Division C final game against Macedonia, winning goal came from our fullback and team leader in Hovhannes Hampardzumian. First and foremost, that because fullbacks against Macedonia are usually very, very important, and I think that's the whole reason why Caparros knows how to play against Macedonia already. Because second, they're gonna need to be spot on in defense, containing basically anything that comes their way, and quickly getting the ball off of Macedonia and leading on to number 3, to reason number 3, they will be starting the attack off the wings because, as Caparros said, his game plan is going to be basically off the sides of the pitch and not so much through the center, then giving the ball and good passes, quality through balls to players like precisely Vahan Mkhitaryan and Henrikh Mkhitaryan. So everything will start off the fullbacks.
Well, interesting that it took 54 minutes and 57 seconds into our recording for someone to mention Henrikh Mkhitaryan. He is, of course, back in the squad for the first time in almost a year. The last time he had played for Armenia was during the UEFA Nations League in our 1-1 draw against Estonia and our 2-2 draws against Georgia. And I think those 180 minutes were definitely not enough time for Joaquin Caparros to figure out how to best to utilize Henrikh.
And it was the worst of the national team we've seen last year.
Yeah, it was the worst performances. So I think that is maybe my second question that I'm going to be posing to you guys, and I will start with you, Chadens. Henrikh Mkhitaryan, how is he going to fit back into this side?
Depends. Are you asking tactically or are you asking performance-wise?
I'm asking tactically because we are looking at an Armenia side that is having good performances in a lot of different areas of the pitch, and we're not short of attacking depth. But the real question for Caparros becomes, where do you start a player like Henrikh? Now that we are playing a 4-4-2 formation, is it better to start him at center mid? Is it better to start him on the wing? Is it better to start him up top? Where is Henrikh going to be most effective? So where will he be most effective, and how do you think he's going to fit into Caparros' overall plan?
Okay, I'll give the answer and I'll give a visual description. The starter of the transitions, of the counterattacks, that specific thing I'm hoping to see from him. So visual description to understand what I mean. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was Vahan, right, who passed it to Giro, and Giro controlled it, passed it to Webemar, and he scored against Croatia. It was Vahan, right?
Yes, it was Vahan to Giro, and then Giro to Webemar. Yes.
Yeah,
that pass from Vahan, visualize that, Mkhitaryan, but more often, more effective, and more utilized and efficient in these kind of games.
More or less?
More.
Well, here's
more
the thing.
effective.
It's not more effective.
I'm not saying Vahan is not effective.
Efficient.
I'm saying I'm saying Mkhitaryan will be key to that transition, to that counter-attacking transitions.
Well, I agree. I agree what he's saying, because the way that I'm looking at it is that we don't want Henrikh to be on the ball that much, because that's just going to hinder our play. The players are. We'd rather Henrikh be the pass-through player than the player that everything goes through. You know what I mean? I think, as Chadan said, in a counter-attacking setup, it's better to have Henrikh be the person to release the pass, because he's the person that can arguably, and I know you're probably going to argue with me with me, Armin, but it is the truth. He has the best vision out of any Armenian player of all time. I think that's undoubtedly true.
You're right. You're right. I am gonna argue with that. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna be wrong, because he's the only one that's made it that far in his career, and he's won European championships. So
yeah, that doesn't mean much.
That
doesn't mean much.
That's the whole point of playing, to win trophies. Of course, it means much.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with your previous idea. I mean, honestly, I want Heno to have, as you said, as little as possible possession of the ball. And I also absolutely need him not to be the first pass, honestly, because like a missed pass right off the bat could lead to so many dangerous counters. We could get so many goals scored on us, no matter if we scored back. Uh, we just can't afford to lose possession. I mean, we're not gonna be like we can't we can't give Macedonia the ball and catch us unprepared. We need Heno to, if we of course he's gonna be used. Of course he's gonna play because he is Mkhitaryan, and if he's called, he's gonna play because of things we all know. But I would much rather have him station off a wing and finish off plays than actually creating or trying to create from the deep midfield, because we know, and at least I strongly suspect and experience proves that he is most likely going to start trying to like dribble past everyone, and at some point he's going to lose the ball and catch us very, very off guard for the counter. I would much rather have him stationed up front, be it off the wings or up front as a 4-9 kind of thing, and have a good pillow, a good mattress behind him in case, in which he will most likely do, miss the ball.
I think in not now, but I think in the match against Germany, I think he will be playing as a false nine. But considering the absence of Barseghian and of Bayramyan, I can almost assure you that he will likely be playing on the wing. And as we know with Caparros, the wingers are the people that are expected to have the most output. So he is going to be in a position of a lot of influence.
Yeah, influence, yes. Possession, not so much, because the wings are going to be where things end, when things are finished off, not created. We need him not creating. As long as that's the case, we're going to be pretty much safe off the back.
Okay, well, and here is my final question for you both. How will having a new manager affect Macedonia's approach, and also simultaneously affect Caparros' approach to this match? Being as this will be his first game in charge of this Macedonian side, how can Joaquin Caparros prepare for the relative unknown? So what type of effect will that have on the match? Charens?
Free play, I guess. Free play. They're like they played against Germany. Free roam, attacking. Of course, it depends on his experience, but it's not his first national team experience. Therefore, he is experienced not in terms of knowledge, but in terms of understanding his own team. It's still Macedonia, but just more quality against us.
And Armen, what are your thoughts?
I think that to address this issue, Caparros will have to watch this new coach's under 21 national team, because the five defensive players, their goalkeeper and four defenders, will most likely be pretty much the exact same as they've been throughout the last couple of years. So we know them very, very well. In defense, they're vulnerable, but for their attacking approach, this coach has called several players of the U21 team that he had coached for years, and he knows them very, very well. So I know the attacking approach is gonna be the one he used there. Added as Charan said, a few class players like Elmas, Bardi, and Trajkovski, I think it is, or Nestorovsky, the one that's fit, the one that hasn't got COVID.
I'm not sure off the top of my head, honestly. Okay, so predicted 11s for this match. How do we think Joaquin Caparros will line up against Macedonia to try to take all 3 points, and what type of attacking or approach situation is going to be happening, taking into account the absences of Aras Zaharoyan, Henrikh Mkhitaryan, and Tigran Barseghian? I'll start. I believe in goal we will have David Yurchenko. It looks like he is getting back to full fitness. The physio Pablo is doing a fantastic job in treating him. It looks like his recovery is going very well, and there is about 5 days now until Macedonia, and it seems like he's already training with the ball. So it seems like he will likely be fit for that match. In defense, I think we will start with our strongest possible, which will be Hambarzumian, Voskanyan, Kalisir, and Kamo Hovanesyan. Voskanyan, of course, because Haroyan is unfortunately suspended. In the midfield, on the wings, I think we will see Vahan get his start on the right or left side, I'm not sure, with Mkhitaryan taking the opposite wing. And in center mid, I think we will see Grigorian and Spertian. And in the attack, I think we will see an attacking duo of Adamian and Karapetyan. I think he will be looking to have quick counterattacks through the wings, which is literally what Mkhitaryan is responsible for in every game with Roma, and combination plays down the wings with low crosses. I think he'll look to isolate defenders one-on-one and provide low crosses to late runs into the box. I think that'll be the general approach for this match. Ottoman, what is your predicted lineup?
It's a lot of similarities with yours. Hopefully, Yushchenko will start in the goal. Hopefully, it seems he's fit, or he will be fit enough by the time the game kicks off. Defense, my defense would be exactly like yours. Kamo Hovanesyan off the left, Andre Chalishir and Daron Voskanyan center backs, and off the right back, Hovannes Hamparzumian, basically a team leader by now, a national team leader. My midfield would be Vahan Bachachyan off the left mid, open, fast, quick, strong too, and smart. That's gonna be very important, as Charan said. Central midfield is gonna be Artak Grigorian, the Lion. Hopefully he will be fit too. It seems he will. And alongside him, less defensive but well-rounded and very dynamic, Salomon Udo calling the shots in the midfield. Maybe not so much with the ball, but he will be also very, very important. And off the right, hopefully the right wing, as Aram said, Henrikh Mkhitaryan with the counter, with the quick counter. He is very paced. He knows already how to fight for the ball, and hopefully he will not shy away from tackles. So yeah, counter-attacking football to an attacking duo that I see. This is gonna sound a little crazy, but I think, of course, Sarkis Adamian is gonna start. He is fit. He is in form. He is basically, in my opinion, the best attacking player we can get right now. Alongside him, Arshak Gorian. This is my bold bet because Arshak is also fast. He is very, very smart. I don't understand why he left Khimki. He is in Russian second tier, but he is more than good enough for Russian Premier League or any UEFA top 15 league. So don't mind that. He is class and he adapts very, very well to Caparros' system. I'm very glad. I was sad Gorian missed the last couple national team camps, but he is very important if his fit. Yeah.
Sorry, that was my cue. I was trying to unmute myself. All right, Chadens.
It happens. It happens.
Well,
who do you have?
I've got a different goalkeeper than the two of you. I've got Mkhitaryan because Caparros. I do see Caparros thinking that I wouldn't mind giving him a chance, especially if Yurchenko. Okay, we've still got 5 days. Practically looking at this, might take him more than that. I'm not sure. I don't know how the fitness works, but safety reasons, Mkhitaryan. More safety is the defense with Hovo and Camo as fullbacks, Voskanyan and Chalisir in center backs. Which something else I wanted to mention before is that we're probably going to see the center backs most of the time not completely rotating. That's why maybe he called the experienced center backs. It's going to be a common thing that we're going to have Vato there instead of Voskanyan for the next game, but that's for the next game. Midfield, I moved for Vahan, Udo, Grigorian, and Gorian. The thing is, with Gorian, he's going to give trouble, like Arme said. It's unfortunate that we didn't see him in the previous matches, but this match specifically, Macedonia should receive the unexpected. Gorian will probably be that unexpected element to it. Grigorian will be the defensive role in this, with Udo. Udo is more of a bit more attacking, and Vahan is already thriving on form. That's the advantage I see. That and Heno. Here's the thing with Heno attack with Sako. It's a little strange because
I like it.
Heno.
No, I like
Heno is gonna be but you guys are suggesting that he should be midfield, which is more of a possibility. But Heno has also got that not just experience, but the knowledge and the understanding of the game.
He has played 4-9 at Roma plenty of times, so I can see it. And in fact, I wish this was the case, Challenge. I agree. I love it.
As a center forward, mostly. He doesn't need to be striker. A center forward, someone who can assist Sako there. But him moving in midfield would be a tactical role, possibly. So he shifts back. Anyway, that's too much detail in tactics. So the formation all around. Okay, Caparros has a common standard formation, which is the 4-4-2. But in game, maybe defensively, he might move for a 4-2-3-1. Or maybe the opposite, 4-4-2 might be the defensive option in order to confuse the Macedonian defense with all the midfield. So yeah, that's my final thought.
All right. Well, that is, I believe, it for our preview of Armenia versus Macedonia. Again, just like in the last set of qualification matches, we will be providing an in-depth preview and analysis, post-match analysis of every single Armenia National Team match. We are very excited for this one. Of course, it has been a very long time since Armenia has last played, and we are currently looking to continue pushing forward in this FIFA World Cup qualifiers and stay on top of the group before we move away to Germany. Of course, again, this match is in Skopje. It is Skopje, and it is for lost my train of thought. Yes, it is away to Macedonia.
Time passes on quickly when you're winning, doesn't it?
Exactly. So we were we're hoping to be looking at the table once more after this set of matches and hopefully seeing Armenia on top. That is going to be it for us today at Football Kentron. The match will be tomorrow, and we will be likely recording a review of this match and a preview of the match against Germany to be released very likely on Saturday. We will try to confirm these times online on our social medias, which you should go ahead and follow: our Twitter and Instagram at Football Kentron, our Facebook Football Kentron, and we are also on YouTube if you want to listen to our episodes on YouTube, if that is your preferred format. Thanks to Chadens, all of our shows are now available on YouTube. So on behalf of the boys, I think that is going to wrap it up for this edition of Football Kentron. Hopefully, we can have a victory and we can be coming into the next match full of confidence. Anything else to add, guys?
There we go.
All right, guys, signing out. Peace.